pleasant good evening. Adja here with the UNI News once more, under the representative of the RDI, Reform Domestic Issues. The UNI News broadcast today a document that was written on 2015, the 6th month of the 5th date, done by Adja, the author of and founder of the RDI. This organization has emerged with the people's interests at heart, founded by a concerned citizen who bears the abbreviation ABH. This organization so far is not affiliated with any number of or numbers of organizations or entities. Reform Domestic Issues RDI is a non-profit organization that which carries internal entities to address our many difficult issues facing us as a nation. Our intention is to also devise diligently strategic strategies of protocol which is amended to follow legislation and reforms the issues for the effects of goodwill. Likewise, in order to narrow down the margin of failure, which is supported by inferior strategy. RDI organization and its agenda is to the many issues and the most influential strategy to reform and acquire most of transparency in which is our objective. And it was done by Adja, like I said before, and page 2 also consists of the conclusion of the very document, and it goes on to say, RDI stands neutral and very much open to CCC, our motto, critics, comments, and corrections. We work for the people and not to oppose the people. RDI has devised plans of awareness programs as to enlighten in order to reconstruct, also merge ourselves to be educated and evolve around all different issues presently facing us as a nation. RDI once more, as mentioned in a previous document, is hereby seeking an urgency of a meeting with your leaders or board of directors in order to give birth to the Reform Domestic Issues organization as a part of the way forward with our people's interests at heart. RDI wishes to be very grateful of your gesture of curiosity to give RDI an hearing, which more would be laid out of our agenda as serving patriots to the true cause of reforming and eradicating occult secrecy in organizations which bears corruption. And it's a brief document which is done by the founder of the RDI, and we will move on to devise this document. In the beginning of the document, the representative had laid out that the organization has emerged with the people's interests at heart. That's taken. He also went on to mention that it was founded by a concerned citizen, concerned of issues I preside. The organization so far is not affiliated with any number of entities or organizations. Reform, he went on to say, the organization is a non-profit organization that which carries internal entities. Therefore, I would presume that this organization intends to carry internal entity to address the many difficult issues facing the nation. Understood. The organization intention is to also devise diligently strategic strategies of protocol Simply, I would presume that the organization intend to diligently, carefully strategize strategies of protocol which is amended to follow legislation and reforms the issues for the effects of goodwill. So therefore, these ideas that this organization is proposing, it must be dealt with diligently, most to mention strategically, and the new strategies following the protocol which is amended to follow legislation, which is amended to follow the law, in other words, and also reforming the issues for the effects of goodwill. Likewise, he went on to say to narrow down the margin of failure. So I suppose when these things are strategically done, they will also narrow down the margin of failure and will gain more of what the thought or the ideas was enforced for. We must gain the most of success out of it and narrow down the margin of failure, which is supported by inferior strategy, he went on to say. So therefore, this organization is applying that strategies could be implemented that would work out to the effects of almost perfect, because I figure they would have something will have flaws, but as I guess the organization works along, the board and members of the RDI would have their team of internal entities who constantly managing the evolution of the developments. The organization and its agenda is to many issues, like I've said. So the most influential ones. Okay, so therefore individuals of society also could come on board and everybody pool the resources of their strategies to alleviate errors and acquire the most influential strategy to reform and acquire most of transparency, in which is our objective. So on the first page of this document, I've read it through twice. The author have said that basically the organization was founded on with the people's interests at heart, simply meaning, well, the concerns that faces the individual. Also, they have devised plans of awareness programs and strategic methods to follow protocol, which is also within our laws, so that the organization would not fall out of a lawful construct of doing and addressing these issues. Also, he mentioned is for the goodwill in order to narrow down margin of failure. So when it's perfected, with narrow down the margin of failure, also acquiring the most influential strategy to put into existence for a long-term purpose and acquire the most of transparency, which is their objective. And the document is quite understood for this magnitude, and that was page 1 of the explanation of the document. Also on page 2, the author stated that they stand very neutral and very much open to CCC, their motto, which is critics, comments, and corrections. So I figured that the organization welcome the critics, also the comments and the corrections, because the corrections could only come from the critics. The corrections could only come from the critics which receive and also advice given to non-partisan individual also for the people and not to oppose the people. So the organization is based there for the citizens, for the individuals, and not to oppose them within the rights and the basic needs that you see that is devastating the society. They went on to say they have devised plans of awareness programs. So therefore, there are programs which have put together one of the words used before within the document, diligently to enlighten society in order to reconstruct. So therefore I figured that this is very deep. He has to go into a new definition of programs in order to enlighten society and curb many errors which I figure is facing the nation, the plights. In order to reconstruct, also, like I've said, emerge ourselves to be educated and evolve around all different issues presently facing us as a nation. Well said, and it's understood. And it appears here a document was devised before this. He went on to say, they're hereby seeking an urgency of a meeting with the board of directors of government or leaders in order to give birth to this, to reform domestic issues organization as part of the way forward with our people's interests at heart. So they intend to work along with government, providing that providing that the organization RDI stands independent of the sane and also condole within the advice from senior, but working out their own critical thinking to come up with the most accurate solution for the very issues that the organization internal entities would be addressing. Fair enough. As a part of the way forward with our people's interests at heart, RDI wishes to be very grateful of your gesture. So the document also is telling them that they should have a gesture into the curiosity of the RDI if they intend to have a more productive future in every aspect of society. Likewise towards managing, I guess, our resources and how it's disbursed and adequately constructed to eliminate fraud, eliminate errors, and also the domination of the abuse of the resources so that it could actually maintain for long-term purpose. Not most to mention eradicating occult secrecy in organization which bear corruptions. And the document have concluded there. So under the UNI News, I am Joe broadcasting from studio at Ground Zero.